The Lord be with you. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Mark. Jesus departed from there and came to his native place, accompanied by his disciples. When the Sabbath came, he began to teach in the synagogue, and many who heard him were astonished. They said, "Where did this man get all this? What kind of wisdom has been given him? What mighty deeds are wrought by his hands? Is he not the carpenter, the son of Mary, and the brother of James and Joses and Judas and Simon? And are not his sisters here with us?" And they took offense at him. Jesus said to them, "A prophet is not without honor except in his native place, and among his own kin and in his own house." So he was not able to perform any mighty deed there, apart from curing a few sick people by laying his hands on them. He was amazed at their lack of faith. The Gospel of the Lord. I'm sure that none of us would be surprised if a priest or preacher said to us that we should get closer to Jesus. But would you be surprised if a priest or preacher said to you that perhaps we might be best to get less close to Jesus? Today's gospel is about becoming overly familiar with Jesus. It's a passage in which our Lord comes to his own hometown, people who have known him for years, and they don't get it. They have become so familiar with Jesus that they cannot see who he really is. It happened to them 2,000 years ago, and it can happen to us here and now. Many times I will listen to people who tell me what Jesus is about, and what he's all about is being nice. It's the number one thing. Jesus is nice. In fact, he's kind of low-key, laid back, chill. And I say to people, "Where did you ever get that idea?" And they say, "Well, everybody believes that, don't they?" I say, "Well, let us take a look at the scriptures, at the place where we learn about Jesus. Let's look, for example, today, if you were coming from some distant place and had never heard a thing about this person called Jesus, but this was the first thing you ever read about him, what would you say about him?" You'd say, "Well, somehow he shows up to speak somewhere in his hometown. And he speaks, and the people react badly to him. Basically, they say, 'Who do you think you are? You've gotten uppity. We know where you come from. You lived right down the street. We know your family.' Jesus, in turn, turns around and says, 'You know what this is like? It's like these people we call prophets. They spoke, they were respected, except by their own family and friends and neighbors, the people that were close to them. In fact, he goes on to shame them. He says that you won't accept anyone who comes from your own people.' He was amazed at their lack of faith." Now, does that have anything to do with what people around us say Jesus is about? Have we heard any mention of love? I encourage us, during these next few months between now and Thanksgiving or Advent, listen to each gospel and listen to what it tells us about Jesus. You might say, "Well, Father, it's not that everything is in here, but he talks somewhere else about love." Yes, but be careful. Because out there, a lot of people who talk about Jesus, talking about love, I don't know what they mean. They mean he's some sort of soft, gushy, lollipops and rainbow sort of guy. Love, love, love. Accept, accept, accept. The real Jesus. Have we ever stopped to listen to the real Jesus and not people's opinions about him out there? You say, but oh, Father, I hear so many people saying Jesus is all about love and acceptance and all that. Well, yes, a lot of people do talk about that, and a lot of people have reasons to talk about that, because just like people over the centuries, they want to create a Jesus in their own image and likeness. Folks have been doing this for a long time. You go back and read about 19th century Victorian English. What was Jesus like? Surprise, surprise. He was a true and proper English gentleman. You ask the communists about Jesus. Surprise, surprise. Jesus is a communist. You ask people today, who is Jesus? Oh, he's somebody that says, do whatever you want. Just be nice about it. That's not in the Bible. There are people I've heard who say to me, Jesus never spoke about sexual morality. He talks about it countless times. There are people out there pushing a Jesus that is not the real Jesus, and many Catholics are suckered by it. It's time for us to go back to the Bible, yes, for Catholics, to go back to the Bible and remember who Jesus really is. I've thought about it once. I thought, just for fun, I should get up here at the microphone and say, you know, it says in the Bible that Jesus prefers Chevy trucks over Ford trucks. And just see how many people go, okay, I guess. I don't think I've ever read that passage, but he says it up there. He must be right. Every one of us is being tempted by the culture around us to recreate Jesus to our own liking. It's happening all the time. So I challenge you. Don't do what happened here in the Bible, where these people got so overly familiar with Jesus, they missed who he was, what he taught. And don't be surprised if Jesus does not agree with you, or with the government, or with Hollywood, or with what all the smart people out there know. The late great Catholic author Flannery O'Connor once said, Truth is not a matter of what we can stomach. There are truths that are not pleasant. There are truths that wake us up and shake us up. And if you want to go out and create a new Jesus that's just like you want, that agrees with all your opinions, go ahead. There's thousands of places out there where people do that all the time. But here in this church, we will not create a new Jesus to suit our moods, our opinions, our ideas. We are going to stick with the one and only Jesus Christ, who sometimes will disturb us, who sometimes will disagree with what everybody out there believes. We must decide today, who are we committed to? Are we believing and trusting the one and only true God, the one and only true faith, the one and only Jesus Christ?